Digital transformation is inherently coupled with disruptive technology. And innovation both creates and destroys companies. It generates revenue and can annihilate value. For Tech Republic, I'm Dan Patterson with physicist and futurist Isaac Arthur to help us learn about the history of disruptive technology and how innovation has shaped how we work, communicate, and create. Isaac, thanks a lot for your time and talking with us about this kind of nuanced and complex topic. I think we could probably go back to the beginning of time with the history of disruptive technologies, but I wonder if we could start in recent history. The decisions we make about how we use and apply technology, how we create policy, and how we interact with technology can really echo decades or centuries into the future. So I wonder if you could give us one or two examples of a technology that has shaped future for generations.
Oh, well, I'd say probably your best example might actually be the light bulb of all things. You have this device which suddenly made it possible to extend work shifts into the second and third shift when it was dark, and you start getting 24-hour stores and things like that connected to that. Same thing for the internal combustion engine. You suddenly have people able to travel to work miles and miles away, and that reflects itself when you see these power grids getting set up and the highway systems getting set up. Those are investments that require tons of policy to get them in place, tons of subsidies, and huge amounts of capital you're going to be paying on for generations. So if you choose one of these paths early on, it can really shape how the technology ends up impacting you.
At the time of, say, the light bulb or the internal combustion engine, were there alternative decisions or paths that we as a culture could have taken?
Sure. There were some at the time already developing with electricity, obviously for the light bulb. We could have gone an electric engine route, invested more into batteries, and we'd even discovered the photoelectric effect for solar panels before cars became a common thing here. First generation we had cars, almost nobody had them. It wasn't that disruptive of a technology. Later on, it became that way as we started putting the infrastructure for that, having to widen roads inside cities, knock over entire buildings just to make room for the cars to move and park. But that could have gone other ways. You could easily have had more of a bus approach, more of an electric freight approach, and you might have seen more investment into battery technology or solar technology. And having those localized electric grids, so easy to have phones in place as we laid wires down for the telephones and the electricity at the same time. Had we gone more of a cell phone route early on, or more of a local off-the-grid approach with something like solar panels or windmills, you wouldn't have seen all those telephone poles popping up all over the place carrying electricity, cable, and phone lines.
If we look to this history as a guide, are there ways that we could have made decisions or explicitly chosen different paths, which is different than the question of different paths themselves? What I'm getting at are, nuggets that we might be able to extract from these events that could perhaps help us make decisions going forward.
I think probably one of the key things is you never want to jump too fast on new technology. There's always that desire when you get a new piece that looks like it's very useful to rush forward with it. And that's obviously very beneficial to the economy and to just general prosperity. But if you move too quick on these, you eliminate some of the other alternative decisions. Again, going back to the electricity option, internal combustion engines, we picked that path when we'd already known about things like biofuels and ethanol a long time before that. We've been using those for centuries. So we might have gotten much better at making those, and might have been cheaper at that time to have implemented those with the investment. So once you pick a given technology path, the existing technology keeps getting improved and refined, and it keeps working its way into the market. That's actually what's so fascinating about disruptive technologies. They come by and destroy an existing market. But that market's kind of a bit of a fortress. It's hard for anything else of a similar type, but are using a different principle to get in there and fill that new market. So typically we see this kind of growth of something like that and either never gets anywhere, or it does and it knocks over the old market over the course of a couple of years, causing a lot of disruption.
If we fast forward to perhaps the 19th or even 20th century, can you provide a few examples of how that motion happens?
The internet would be the big example of that. You got phone lines that got laid down for everyone to have phones. And again, in the United States, that required an awful lot of subsidy and regulation, rights of way to get the lines in place. And if that had not been there, I very much doubt we'd have seen the pickup of the internet until we developed a wireless system. Now we have cell phones and things like that. It's not as important, but we might have developed that much sooner if we hadn't had those existing lines in place for phone electricity, and then again for cable, which gave us our first high-speed internet options. If those had not been there, I would be very surprised if the personal computer had taken off as much as it did, because it's really the internet that made the PC and laptop in every home so common. Until then, it was really just something used for video games mostly, if you had one at all. You couldn't use it to check your email or things like that. So if we had not had that existing infrastructure specifically for landlines and for cable, as opposed to broadcasting via radio, cell phone, or antenna dish, you probably would not have seen the internet take off nearly as fast. It would have come around a different direction. You might have seen cell phones get invented first, and instead of having the laptop turn into the smartphone, you might have had the smartphone first and never developed much in the way of laptops. We did have them in the 80s, but almost nobody owned them. Laptops exploded more or less with the availability of the internet.
Isaac Arthur is a physicist and futurist. You can learn more about disruptive technologies by visiting his YouTube channel and searching Isaac Arthur on YouTube, and watch more interviews with Isaac on Tech Republic by going to techrepublic.com and doing a search for Isaac Arthur. And to learn more about disruptive technologies, make sure you subscribe to the Tech Republic Next Big Thing newsletter for Tech Republic and ZDNet in New York. I'm Dan Patterson.